Welcome to the Elite Power Moves podcast, where we unlock the secrets to level up in all areas of life. I'll be interviewing some of the world's top performers in their fields so that you can uncover and learn the strategies that have led to their overall success and apply it to your own life. Matt Elliott, welcome to the Elite Power Moves podcast, mate. Really humbled to have you here. I do appreciate your time, and we're both big fans on energy, so I'm looking forward to sharing energy with you today.
Yeah, mate, I'm so stoked you had me on, Michael, and I'm being connected with you and being engaged with some of the stuff that you've already done and exposed me to. I'm really excited to have a chat today.
Awesome. Well, we'll get stuck into some of the questions that the listeners want to hear. So first one, Matt, you went from being an elite coach to founding a wellbeing and culture business. What was the moment when you realized that the old work hard and grind mentality wasn't enough, and what you needed to do to create a new energy system for your life?
Well, I didn't really have any choice but to realize it, Michael, because, I got an autoimmune disease. I had a relationship breakdown that meant a lot to me, and I got the sack. So there was one common denominator in all that, me. And when I look back at what I was doing, it was, my complete lack of awareness of emotional regulation, because I never got taught about emotions. I got taught to, harden up and have a cup of concrete. And so I had to take a step back and try and understand what just happened, because it wasn't because I wasn't working hard, and it wasn't because I didn't know my craft, but I lost relationships, just not with a key person, with a lot of people, because I was highly fatigued and worn out. And I didn't, our body signals us, doesn't it, when we're tired? Our body lets us know emotionally when, we're going down a wrong pathway. Well, I just ignored that and kept working because I thought I did care, but my expression of care was really poor. It's a little bit like what we just spoke about off air. You either learn through awareness or suffering. Unfortunately, I have to go the second one and put my hand on the hot plate.
Yeah. And it is a very common trait, because like we connect on, like we were taught from our granddads who taught our dads who taught us, as part of our belief system and identity, that we have to work hard and grind. We need to drink a cup of concrete, as you say, and toughen up. Don't ask for help. And I guess the biggest question is, like, looking back at the habits and practices that made the biggest difference and shift in your performance at that stage, what would they be? Talking to someone that's in the same sort of space.
Well, brace yourself for something simple. But I've got to be really clear on this. Working hard and grinding isn't bad. Being stressed isn't bad. That's where we get growth from. We don't get growth by not working hard. Like you work in the fitness industry, right? You stress the body, and guess what you do after it? You recover. Yeah. And you don't recover once a year for 4-week holiday. You don't do it just on weekends. You got to recover every day. And I learned that you have to do this physically, mentally, and emotionally to grow. And if you don't, you can't avoid the consequences. You don't take care of your well-being now, at some stage in the future, you'll be dealing with your illness. And I learned that the hard way. But it's so simple. Stress isn't bad. Yeah. It's bad when you remove its collaborator, rest and recovery. Hard work's not bad. You got to do the same thing. And I just didn't realize it. I didn't think I needed to do it because I was full of ego and lack of awareness.
I think, like, talking about it, it's like we're climbing this mountain of success. And like you said, we all have to. Peak performance coaches, like the best coaches in the world, anyone that's created anything, you have to go through that pressure. Like, diamonds are formed under pressure, and we have to be able to go through that stress and pressure and emotional regulation. We just need to have that foundation, obviously, to come back to, with the 3 things that you mentioned around physical and emotional. And what are your top 3 things that you anchor to now?
Again, it's not weekly recovery. It's daily recovery. It's consistent recovery. And it's like, this is not new, is it? Our ancestors were doing this thousands and thousands of years ago. They wouldn't do it for thousands of years if it didn't work. Sitting quietly, knowing how to breathe properly. We walk past all this stuff. I did, and so many people do. So many high level professionals that I work with do it. And High performance, the definition of it is performance under pressure. You can't have high performance without pressure. And what you need to do is learn to embrace it, but also go, okay, it's time for me to take 10 seconds. It's time for me to take a minute. It's time for me to take 5 minutes. That's all you need. You don't have to do any trick stuff. You don't have to sit and burn incense for 2 hours, and go to the top of a mountain. You just need to recover yourself mentally, emotionally, and physically on a consistent basis. And the ways of doing it are things you're already doing. It's just you can do it like we're already breathing right now. You can't not breathe. We've got evidence that if you stop breathing, it's bad for you, right?
Yeah.
You've also got evidence if you hyperventilate, you'll probably pass out. Yeah, because your vagus nerve signals your brain, dude, I don't know what you're doing, but you need to lie down for a tick. So it's got to make sense that we can signal our brain that it's safe and that we're in recovery mode. So our chemical balance in our body allows us to recover. And that's what so many people don't understand is that how you move, how you think, how you feel, how you breathe, all this stuff is a two-way street that impacts everything we do inside our body. If you want to ignore it, there's consequences coming your way.
Yeah. I think that it's perfectly led into our next question, Matt. Like, Matt, when working with high pressure, teams and also sporting environments, the toughen up and grind mindset really ruled, obviously back in the day as well. What did you observe as a hidden cost of this mindset in terms of individuals that you've coached in the past?
Well, not just individuals, but teams. It's the cumulative effect of not adding recovery and rest into our formula, chilling out, whatever you want to call it. So always in the high performance sport that I've been involved in, physical recovery was always adapted into it. Not when I played, but, when I came through, I graduated from sports science and I came through our performance staff understood physical recovery. But performance under pressure, high level sport also has emotional and mental load, right? And that's what you're seeing. Like Phil Jackson was doing this in the 80s. That's why he's the most winningest coach in NBA history. All right. He was just so far ahead of the curve. And, I tried to do that at a club that I coached at, and, getting a meditation coach in to do that was probably a little bit too far ahead of the curve at the time, and I just was doing it all on science and what I'd read in a book by, Sacred Hoops by Phil Jackson, where I went, well, if it worked for him and it worked for the Lakers, I'm prepared to give it a shot. Yeah. So it's not just physical recovery. It's bringing in mental and emotional recovery, but making them all happen at the one time. You don't have to go, okay, I need an hour of physical recovery and then I need to do an hour. You could do it all at the one time.
Yeah. Follow-up question for that, Matt. Like looking back at those sort of people who didn't think this was important, if you were to rewrite the playbook today, what would be the core mindset to replace the toughen up and grind and don't spend time on yourself for recovery?
Get ready for failure. That's simple. It's coming. Get ready for illness. It's coming. Get ready for disappointment. It's coming. It's not avoidable. It is not avoidable. And we've all got 1,000 examples of it. And there'll be someone who say, yeah, but I punched through. But it's like, Michael Jordan, like getting up at 4 a.m. in the morning, but he also had recovery techniques built into everything he did.
Yeah. I like to sort of like when I'm coaching my guys, I like to talk about deloading, and obviously deload in our training, obviously we need to deload in our life as well, our calendars. If we have packed out calendars and we're not spending time to review, and as you know, Matt, like that's where the best change happens. Like when we're recovering, we get the best results out of our body, we get the best results out of our mind. So we actually recovery is a key part of what all top, performance coaches talk about. Matt, leading into the next question, behavior change is often a weakest link in performance improvement. In your work with organizations and leading teams, what patterns and behaviors keep them stuck? And what behavioral pivots have you seen create the biggest breakthroughs?
That's a great question. I'll merge what you actually shared from the last question into this is that when we talk about recovery, you can't be creative when you're tired. It's impossible. The human body can't do it because you're in fight or flight, or you're in recovery mode. So that's when you take time to chill out. This is not recovering, by the way. You can't use this in recovery where you get bored. That's where that's the doorway to creativity. The other thing if you're tired, there's distance in relationships, all relationships. You don't get closer to someone or anyone when you're fatigued. And I guess that's when we talk about the scope of whole organizations and how they actually need to change this approach to things. You need to understand in modern life, okay, when I was a kid, all right, there was work-life separation. So mum made my lunch for school at whatever time in the morning when she got up. I caught the bus to school. She went to work and went to work. And at 5 o'clock, she came home. All right. I had to get home by the time the lights came on. So I wouldn't have known what she did at work. Okay. Then went to work-life integration and now it's just life.
Yeah.
Okay. And if I own a business and I've been involved with very high-level successful businesses where they make those businesses a community hub as well as a place of work. Because people are, even if we have rules in place where you can't send emails after a certain time, you can't look at emails after people are looking at them. First thing you do in the morning is look at your phone. Sorry, I'll say 95% of people, the first thing they do in the morning is look at their phone. So the first thing you need to do is, if you're a business owner or a leader, is understand that I need to integrate life into my business, not just work into my business. And I need to assess people on a not just a performance level, but on their energy level.
Yeah.
And I need to have the awareness to do it. And I only, bring in things like, what the biggest cause of longevity on the planet is? It's the same cause of productivity. It's human connection.
Yeah.
And have a look what we're doing now. Even though it's good to chat to you, it's not the same if you and I were sitting in the same room together. Yeah. There's a completely different feel, right?
Yeah.
And so that was my long-winded way of answering your question of that, the new cultural development or the new development in high-performing organizations. And I've done a lot of work with Google. They bring all that into the workplace. And I've seen other really high-performing organizations do the same thing.
Yeah, it's definitely work-life balance is one of those myth words, isn't it? Like it's
gone.
Impossible. That's why you probably see me bring Zane to the Elite Performance series, because I want to integrate my family into what I do. And I know that's not possible for all people, but like you said, having that culture of feeling like they're coming home into a workplace.
Michael, I'd say this: good leaders would make it possible.
Yeah.
Now that's a really good example of, you bringing your son along, right? Okay. Into things that you do. You've got to understand that feels good for you, right? But the development that you're opening up for your son goes through the roof. His understanding of you, understanding of other people goes through the roof. Yeah. It's not just it's a nice thing to do.
Yeah. And I think it stems from my work hard and grind, don't ask for help upbringing, as we all had. And I know the biggest achievement and fulfillment for a man is to step in that domino and take the hit. And as you and me know, there's a new era of executive. People are becoming more mindful. They know they need to do breath work. It's not I'm not going to do breath work. I'm a hippie. I'm drinking coffee and grinding. They're getting more emotionally attached to themselves. And the three things I say to Zane, he can't speak yet. He says apple and bubbles and buff and mom and dad, but he can't speak, but he can listen. He could observe. And my behaviors and obviously stemming back to the main part of the question, it's about our behaviors, as you know, Like we're big on those behaviors. I always said to Zane, I'm so proud of how resilient you are. I'm so proud of how strong you are. And like, and I tell him I love him. Like I say those three things as soon as I get him, as soon as I clock off. And I know that that's going to be part of his behavioral system, you know? And when we do big stuff in the future, like he'll be there and seeing that stuff. Like, you know, getting to know great men like Matt Elliott and James Keys and Paul Rouge and being around these people, is going to like obviously impact him. And I think like we're all climbing this mountain of success. Like I said at the start, like we can't fathom stopping. Some people, and often, like very often, the biggest thing I see is I'm not eating enough. I don't have time to stop and eat, or even saying the words I don't have time. You know, creating that in the reality. So that was a good, obviously a good response to that one.
Can I just go in a little bit and give cynic Matt a bit of a run, right? Because our brains are wired 3.1 to 1 to see threat over joy. I know you heard me say that in my chat, right? Really smart people for a long time understand this. So people, really smart people who are in places of power on the planet, get our attention through fear. Have you turned the news on lately? Have you seen what politicians say to us? They don't give us good news, do they? Just tell us what the other team are doing really bad, right?
Yeah.
So we get our attention through our fear-based genetics. Which we can't escape. But you can change that. You can rewire your brain because it's not real fear, is it? It's not something that's happening to you. It could be happening to someone else that you've seen on TV. I'm not saying you ignore this, but I'm saying that, you know, what you're doing with your son, for example, is changing that fear-based dynamic into a joy-based dynamic. And that's where we're the most productive. We're not most productive when we're scared. We're most productive when we're in elevated states. It actually shows that people that can access elevated states, everyone's into longevity. The biggest cause, it'll add 7.5 years to your life. And people aren't even aware of this.
Yeah.
This is hidden from us because there's a lot of money in scaring people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money in people not being well. I'm sorry, I don't like saying that, but yeah, I've been through it and been able to sit back and look at it and go, wow, that's clever. And they actually knew it. They knew it. Like they knew when they gave us margarine and oil, right, that it was not good for us.
Yeah.
But they gave it to us because there's a lot of cash in it.
Yeah.
The stuff that you're doing is cutting edge and people need to pay attention of how you're raising your child. Just one example.
Yeah, I think we could almost do a whole nother podcast on society and talking about like the oils that they used to run machinery on that we eat now, and like the chemicals in our food, and like everything that leads to the doctor who gives us the pharmaceutical and Band-Aid, you know.
Fear-based.
I definitely reckon we could start our own Netflix like show on that and crush it, because you know, we're all, it's when we go back to the behavioral system and identity, it's like we're hardwired to hear this bad news and stress, and we're hardwired to, what do I eat on the run? There's nothing really healthy out there, to the point where we go to the supermarket and it's like the insulin resistance aisle, because we're just not taught these behaviors, you know, and
please know I'm wired to trust the system. I grew up believing in everything that I was told. So I'm not a cynic. I don't like even saying this stuff out loud, but I also pay attention to science and facts. So, and, I just want other people I'm not saying I'm right. This is just an opinion, but just explore it, because it's not been a healthy outcome for a lot of people. And I believe that, the people that we were associated with on the day that we met, right? I believe people deserve the best in life, and we're not given access to that, in my opinion.
Yeah. I guess a follow-up question for that, Matt, would be what would be one simple habit that someone could try this week to act on and pivot, on that discussion?
That's a really good question because I've got about 10,000 things sprung to mind. How about we just do this? Know where your food comes from.
Yeah.
Just know where it comes from.
Yeah, and that's probably one of the best things, as you know, with the Centenarians, Okinawa, Japan. It's food is medicine. It's probably the one thing, I guess, with Zane and what I like to learn myself is just like know how to read a nutrition label. Know what's at least know the basics.
Just know where it comes from. Yeah, and well, I always say this: if you read a food label and you don't understand it, your body won't understand it. Anything your body doesn't understand what it is, it stores this toxic load. It's the biggest cause of obesity on the planet. Isn't what fat doesn't make you fat. Toxic load does. And just it, when you actually know this, and I've been doing this for for a long time with with one of our mentors, Anthony Minicello, and have had an understanding of it because I got ill and he helped me cure myself. Was really around that really simple thing. Just know where your food comes from.
It's definitely the anchor for obviously longevity, because everything we do, the way I like to see health, mindset, longevity, everything it's just habits. It's what we create in our day and what we do from the start of the day to the end of the day,
Yeah.
and that all compounds in interest.
Well, my education on food is flawed because it was calories in, caloric burn. Now, in our gut is where all our emotions, where our hormones are made. All that stuff going on there is. So I don't want to go too deep into it because we will go off track. But it's we're not just a one function thing. That they're all connected to each other, and people deserve to be healthy.
Yeah.
And we have the actual all the processes to give people access to the stuff that they should have access to.
Yeah, and I think it's just a passionate thing, really. Like you said, not me or you or even the guy with the PhD in front of his name. Usually they're the guys that saying, I don't know, but there's just simple things, it doesn't have to be difficult. Matt, leading to the next question, Matt, you're passionate about culture, both in the change room and the boardroom. If you had one do-over to redesign what modern high-performance culture looks like, what would you change?
I think we've sort of already touched on a little bit is that the best form of culture these days is to demonstrate care.
Yeah.
Now, and I know that sounds really simple, but demonstrating care for your staff in that environment, is the most important thing. And making people understand that building relationships is not a soft skill. It's again, you talked about Okinawa, there's Loma Linda or Costa Rica and all those blue zones around the world, right, where the highest concentration of centenarians. The biggest cause of them living longer is human connection. You know what the biggest cause of high performance and elite environments is? The same thing. You know what the biggest cause of, highly functional relationships? It's the same thing, is human connection. And we're all different. I've got a mentor, Dr. Ali Walker. She's amazing. And she has a profiling thing that she does so you understand how you connect to people. Now, some people like me probably talk a lot. And some people don't talk at all. Some people in those places, that are around people, they sit in groups of people, but hardly say anything. But it's the prime human need to feel safe. And we feel safe around people we trust.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do if I was building a culture, is to create a safe environment where people are at ease in connecting the way that they feel like they're most comfortable to connect with people.
Yeah. It's definitely just an energy thing, really. Like any group of guys you get together or the event we did in Sydney, like it's an energy thing. You just feel it. Like obviously some people are more introverted, extroverted, but just being around people is definitely, I think, one of the most amazing things. And that's where you open a lot of doors too, because I've been in rooms with like really hard-headed business leaders, like took 40 men to Newcastle Beach in Merriweather, and down in Merriweather, we did a beach boot camp, and we did touch footy tag and had some games, and I opened up about myself. And you just seen all these men just open up, and they just fully like just let themselves go because they knew they were safe, they had nothing to worry about. And I think, when we lead back to the head honcho who's stressed and under eating and overperforming, not resting, and not having a system for recovery, like that just echoes into that workplace, and then everyone's working under that stress, which is quite common. And to be honest, like I always link back to saying it's not their fault sometimes. It's just the way they were brought up, and changing behaviors is hard. Changing habits is hard, but it's probably the best thing that we can ever do in life.
It's a really good point to make. And you need to understand, if you're in a leadership position, your state is a minimum 7 times more contagious than anyone else. People go, what are you talking about? Well, if I was like that when we were talking on here, right, people would switch off straight away. But equally, if I was like, yeah, man, that's a pretty cool question, Michael, So you need to understand that the energy you bring to a room as a leader, people pay attention to. That's why going up and shaking someone's hand, looking them in the eye and saying, hey, how you going today? We walk past that. Everyone goes, oh, yeah, right. No, don't walk past that. What are you doing for that person that you're leading when you do that? You're showing them you value them. You're showing them that they're safe in the environment. That'll elevate their performance more than you sending a strategic document out.
Yeah.
You just can't walk past it.
Yeah.
And I've seen it in organizations where we've made a huge difference. If I could give you 50 examples, if I told you what we told people to do and the difference it made, it blew me away. I was a little bit upset because I'd done all these strategic documents and stuff like that, but leaders walking the floor for an hour a day, saying hello to their staff and thanking them for their work, that had a bigger impact than anything I've ever done from like a highly technical side of things.
Yeah. And you think about, I've got a big team as well, and they all work really hard. Like, Jazzy just emailed me before the podcast, said I was up last night looking at some AI stuff in my own time. And like, you find that people, when they will work harder for you if they feel valued. And it's, obviously you repay those people with like the extra things that they're doing. But like leading back to what we talked about at the start, like we have to grind. We have to be under extreme stress, but we need to be able to actually have serenity almost at the same time to just walk, even if it's walking past someone and smiling and saying, hey, Joe, how you doing? It's just that one thing, like walking past them, head down, looking frustrated, can create a whole different energy, and I find the top performers can do that. They can go from extreme stress and 5 minutes later, they're back to gold. They can have a million things on their hit list. They can park it and they're just sitting there present with their families, without the high stress and the cognitive overload.
Because they understand recovery, they understand rest, and they understand that's when we say that, we're not talking about 2 hours. Sometimes we're talking about 2 minutes. Yeah. Sometimes we're talking about 15 seconds.
Yeah. Just like a minute of breath work.
If I lose my stuff, right, and someone, I always tell a story, my daughters jump out of cupboards and scare the shit out of me. And, but if I went over 6 seconds, that's going to impact. So I go, what are you doing here? If I go over 6 seconds of losing it, that's going to impact my physiology for the next 36 minutes. Because I've signaled my, amygdala and my adrenal glands to, pump some hormones into my system, right? So it's got to make sense, and some people are constantly in that mode, right? So it's got to make sense to people that you can signal the opposite to your body, that you're safe and you're chilled in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
And again, it's not heard it's not heard enough. And I wish someone told me that when I was 10.
I guess that, like for me, Matt, I guess talking to someone who I feel is like one of the best performance coaches out there and like probably in the world class. Like I see so many people in that stress spot and it's just hard for them to fathom to stop because they're in the I don't have time, I'm too busy, I'm stressed. And it's really hard for them to really come out of that fight and flight mode, like getting chased by the lion. And I guess that the last sort of question really, Matt, is for busy executives, leaders listening right now, that want more energy, better habits, more influence in their culture and their workplace. What's one change they can implement tomorrow to set a foundation for a long-term impact?
Well, understand how they recover. That's the most important thing. So what I see as recovery and what you see as recovery, Michael, are different, right? We've got to understand that. So, I can sit quietly with my eyes shut, right, and block out 80% of the external stimulus to my brain by just shut my eyes. And if I block my ears, I'm in the 90s, right? And I can sit and do that. But I've got friends that don't want to do that, but they go surfing.
Yeah.
So do that. Whatever it is, fishing. Some people like gardening. Some people, I like writing. I have a daughter that paints. Yeah. You've got to understand your recovery mode, and you've got to do it not every now and then. You've got to do it consistently. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And I go back to the other one, which I will add to it, and I've already shared, is that how do you ignite relationships? So you and I are different, right? So the way that you create relationships and are present in that relationship, what I mean by listening rather than, I've got an answer to that, wait, just let me get that out. And I'm guilty of that. I have to consciously go, shut up, mate, and just listen. But the way that if you can, one, know how to recover, this is really uncomplicated, isn't it? And two, know how you connect to people and do both of them on a consistent basis, that will elevate your health and well-being. It'll also elevate your performance as a leader, but crucially, it'll elevate the people that you come in contact with, the people that work for you that are in your charge, your family, people you care for.
Yeah, and it's a very, very good answer to that, because it's similar to what Tony Archer said, talking about like obviously you'd be a great dad. I'm sure you are as well, and like obviously having liking painting, liking the stuff you're working on in your career, but also having that relationship and just having that balance between things that can help you sort of detach from work. And I think obviously that's the best pillar for performance. It leads to that fulfillment.
Yeah.
Matt, I'll go.
I'm going to learn that through awareness that you're sharing with rather than suffering. Because some of us, we're going to learn both ways, but some of us have to put their hand on the hot plate to work out, that's probably not what I needed to do. So what you're sharing here is giving people awareness. I'm just encouraging them not to walk past it, to actually use the awareness rather than, have to have the illness, have the disappointment, the heartbreak. You don't have to do that. Just listen to what Michael's sharing with you.
Yeah, we've both been there, like your start and your journey, and like I find the best coaches have always experienced it and been through it, and that way they can actually coach people properly. And like human psychology, we like humans will live their whole life in pain. Someone wants to lose weight and they're 20, 30 kilos overweight, and it's, they know what to do. Like myself, probably not stretching as much as I should be. My recovery time is actually like lying on the cot next to Zane, trying to get him to bed, and I try to find a bit of space there to breathe and chill, and everyone's recovery is different, but I find that like a lot of people do need to go through like almost that doctor's appointment or that extreme, stress or point in their life where something breaks before they start to rebuild.
And can I just stop you there real quickly? And people need to see you habit stack your breathing stuff where you're laying on the floor next to your son's bed, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what I started to do about 5 or 6 years ago, is I wanted to do all these things, but I had them all separate.
Yeah.
So you got to lay there to help your son settle down, right? Or whatever it is, or just have some connection with it. What you do is you're habit stacking something else with it. Yeah, most people drive to work, but you know what they do? They sit there and listen to the radio or whatever. Or you can do your breathing, and you can also do forms of mindfulness while you're driving, and because it's focus, single focus stuff.
Yeah.
You can habits. I clean my teeth with my eyes closed on one foot and go to the other foot and use both hands because I don't want to. Because the biggest cause of yucky stuff, males over 50 in Australia, is falls.
Yeah.
So the opposite of falls is stability. I'm just using that as one example of you can habit stack stuff into your life. You don't have to make it separate. And you're doing most of it. You were already breathing anyway, weren't you? Sitting beside your son's bed. All you're doing now is you're doing calming breathing to, allow yourself to settle down. And that calms your son down too, by the way, at the same time. So I know I've been a bit repetitive there, but people need to listen to that and go, okay, I'm going to have a crack at it. Not, I don't have time. That I'm just don't accept that anymore.
Yeah. The best speakers and people that are doing what they do are always repetitive because that's what people need to hear. And I feel like we could almost do another podcast on how to habit stack, like you're driving to back-to-back meetings, like, and you've got no food, like why not have a protein bar and like 30 grams of almonds in your glove box, just little tiny things that you can implement into your lifestyle that, that can save you time because as we both know, your time is your energy is your time. And if you say you don't have time, you'll never see that abundance of time you actually do have. Matt, I'm going to lead into my famous rapid fire questions now. So I'm going to fire you about 6 or 7 questions, and just the best way you can, just in short answer, I'll just get your reply. Matt, what's the most important lesson you've learned as a high achieving CEO?
It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. And that's a quote from Danny Peacock, who passed this year, a player, a coach. So it's in honor of you, Danny.
I like that.
Yeah.
What daily habit has the biggest impact on your productivity?
Meditation.
If you could give your younger self, one piece of advice, what would it be?
Hang out with your younger self more often.
What's the best investment you've ever made in your business?
Quality people.
How do you handle stress and stay focused under pressure?
I recover, breathe.
I like it. What's one book or resource you recommend to inspiring leaders?
The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz.
I like it. And the last question, what's your drink of choice?
Oh, I'm a bulletproof coffee person. That my integrated medical practitioners just made me evolve it from butter coffee to ghee coffee. So I thought that's not going to work, but it's actually quite good.
Oh, I like it. I've actually tried to implement that into my morning train because I get up at 4 to train.
Yeah.
And fasted. So I'm trying to get, obviously over 40 now, I'm trying to get a little bit of fuel in the body before I rip it up. So I might have to try the ghee.
Yeah. Well, when he told me to do it, I was like, oh, because I loved my bulletproof coffee. I love my butter coffee. But he said, I did all my genetic testing and he said, look, you just got to lower some of the fats that you're taking in because I was overdoing it. So he said, try it with ghee. And I was like, that is not going to go down well, but it's really nice.
It's a fat metabolizing gene.
Yeah.
Really big into that. But look, Matt, I wanted to say thank you for your time and energy today. Really looking forward to getting this episode out to our listeners and creating some reels and content that we can share over the next couple of months.
Well, mate, I had a ball. I probably talked too much, but you just got me excited.
Thank you for tuning in today, and I hope you found the discussion useful. Our goal is to positively impact the well-being of 1 million people's lives just like you by sharing the experience and knowledge of some of the world's top performers. So you don't miss out on any key strategies to help you succeed, make sure you hit the subscribe button below. And if you think you may know someone that would benefit from this episode, join us in our mission of impacting 1 million lives and share it with your friends.